to him. I was telling my story. I traveled around the world and I'm blind. We're about to go everyone here. You ready? Yep. City. Yeah, I'm on my breakfast show. Yeah, that'd be cool, yeah. Talk to the people and share my story. Maybe inspire ladies and gents. How you guys doing? The best breakfast in town. You always have motivation, inspiration each and every single day. And I'm sitting here with an amazing person. Tony Giles is here in the studio. Tony is a blind person, but also partially deaf, but managed to travel almost 138 countries around the world. Hi, morning everyone. So the question that I have for you right now is, I'm sure a lot of my listeners are wondering as well, what are the main challenges that you face during this whole project that you've been doing? One of the most difficult ones is getting money out of ATM machines, cash machines. So I have to find someone I can trust. I sort of have to sort of check them out, listen to their story, how they're sounding. If I can trust them, then I can go to the cash machine with them. And they have to help me read the screen. I can press the button, put my information in. And once I've got the money, I need to ask them, so what's the nomination? What notes are these? Obviously, I can't read a menu in a restaurant, so I have to have an idea of the national dish in each country I visit. So in Ethiopia, it's quite easy. It's just injera. So probably one of the other biggest challenges for me is crossing borders. So I have to hand my passport over to someone. I don't know where that passport goes, and I have to hope. What going to when you are faced with adversity or a challenge? Will you keep your chin up and be like, no? Yes. Sometimes I get tired of it. Oh, I can't do this anymore. I always think about my best friend. My best friend died when I was young, and he had a serious disability, and he couldn't move most of his body. And I always think of him, and he inspires me. I mean, I've got it easy compared to what he has, so I just keep going. Yeah. Ladies and gents, there you have it. We had the one and only Tony Giles here in the studio. It was such an amazing, inspirational story. Yeah, I have dark days, not so many now. One of the main reasons I started traveling was escapism. Escapism from my emotions. I'm very practical, I can do things physically, that's easy. I run away from my emotions. I couldn't deal with relationships for a long time. Because I thought everyday relationship would end the same way as my relationship with my friends, I thought. It would go away. I thought that's what would happen with every other relationship. Long time it did. I realised that there's more to life and I could stop grieving. But yeah, it's still okay to get dark days. But the way you overcome them, the way I overcome them is, I think where am I going tomorrow? I think, what's the next challenge? I know people love me, so that's enough. Some people might say, well, I'm on the extreme edge of travel, and the extreme edge of sort of disabled people. I do worry sometimes when I'm giving talks, doing interviews. Am I going to put people off? Am I going to think people think, wow, that's incredible, that's so out, I couldn't do that, I couldn't possibly. I wonder if in a weird way maybe I discourage people. I guess I just sort of have to tell it and let people take from it what they will. Without people, I wouldn't be able to travel. I could have situated. People are helping me, and I'm giving something back. I'm showing them that you can see the world in an alternative way. So they say, how do you travel? How can you see? Why do you come to my country? You're blind. And I tell them, I come to eat the food and meet the people and hear the music and walk on the train up and down the mountains. And I can feel it all through my skin and my feet. And that's how I see the country. Terrain around the churches and outside is up there with some of the toughest places and terrains I've visited. I just want to be normal. Just so frustrated. Got to be so all the time. The only way I can travel. The only way I can go.
shapes us, frees us, and changes us forever. Life Changes, a series of thought-provoking stories in an ever-changing world, on BBC World News, bbc.com.
Since its inception in 1961, the Kuwait Fund has been supporting people's livelihoods in over 100 countries by funding projects in an array of sectors, ranging from infrastructure to health and education. These initiatives ultimately help to eradicate poverty and promote sustainable development.
Delicate, delicious, grana padano, because life can still have a wonderful taste.
Now showing on BBC Real.
Le projet en fait sur les femmes dans la mafia au Japon, ça a commencé pour moi en 2013. J'avais fait quelques voyages au Japon et je me suis intéressée à la place de la femme dans la société japonaise. Gagner leur confiance et je dirais que c'est quand même assez lié aussi avec les hommes avec lesquels elles sont dans leur vie intime. Elles seules ne décident pas de savoir si elles peuvent être prises en fait. Une femme qui est mariée à un yakuza, son quotidien, c'est un quotidien d'une femme au foyer typique japonaise. Maintenant, la différence, c'est qu'en général, cette femme de yakuza aura toujours un peu cette anxiété que son mari rentre ou pas le soir.
Watch more stories like this at bbc.com/real. In 2015, as the refugee crisis divided the European Union, Germany took the controversial decision to open its doors to 1 million people fleeing conflict and oppression.
I knew that I was risking my life going to Germany, just like I was risking my life staying back home. That's why it sort of gave me courage to go through the journey.
Germany has a shortage of 40,000 teachers. This is the story of 3 Syrian teachers rebuilding their lives in Germany and the challenges and opportunities they encounter along the way.
I spent nights and days to achieve my goal. So now I'm here. I'm a teacher of English in Germany.
My hopes to have a secure life here, to have my classroom, to have another normal life.
Most North Korean defectors currently living in South Korea have fled the brutal regime of Kim Jong-un. But now, some of them are turning their defector status into a new career. Our World, North Korea's celebrity defectors, on BBC World News.
There are still a few people out on the Champs-Elysees. The government was telling people, stay in your homes unless it's essential or face a fine.
California has been forced to shut down. This shopping mall is deserted. All the stores are closed. There is now real concern about the number of cases that are presenting in London, but the truth is this virus is spreading throughout the country. Countries around the world are going through a coronavirus emergency. But in China, the feeling the situation is pretty much under control. More and more of them are busting out of their houses.
We break stories from more places than any other international news broadcaster. We are the leaders in global breaking news.
This is BBC World News. I'm Lucy Hockings. Our top stories. The UK's Prime Minister remains in intensive care. Boris Johnson is being treated for coronavirus. He's said to be stable and responding to treatment. These live pictures of the hospital where he's being treated. We are hearing Mr. Johnson is receiving standard oxygen treatment and is breathing without any other assistance. 2.5 months on, people in Wuhan enjoy their freedom as China lifts travel restrictions in the city where the pandemic started. The EU's top scientists Minister resigns, blaming the way Brussels is handling the crisis. The European Research Council responds, claiming Mauro Ferrari was in fact asked to leave. France faces its worst recession since World War II, while the warnings for Germany are equally gloomy. Plus, how stargazers across Europe were treated to a lunar light show, courtesy of the so-called pink moon. Hello, welcome to BBC News. Good to have you with us. Let's start with the latest on the coronavirus pandemic this hour. The UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has spent a second night in intensive care where he is being treated for coronavirus. Downing Street says his condition remains stable and he is receiving standard oxygen treatment and is breathing without any other assistance. 757 more people in Spain have died because of COVID-19. That brings the total number of dead to over 14,000. Despite the somber statistics, a senior WHO advisor who has just returned from Spain said the outbreak there was definitely slowing down. The European Union's top scientist has resigned, condemning what he called Brussels' disappointing response to the pandemic. The European Research Council says Mauro Ferrari was asked to leave after a unanimous vote of no confidence. And in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the coronavirus outbreak began, a lockdown that has been in place for more than 2 months has been lifted. Not everyone, though, will be able to leave their homes. I've been speaking to our correspondent Stephen McDonald, who's in Beijing, about how the lifting of the lockdown in Wuhan is progressing.
Well, it's really just a staged process, but I mean, if we look at the overall picture, that city has been cut off from the rest of the world for more than 10 weeks. So just starting that process of people being able to leave there, you can imagine what that's like, or for that matter, for others to be able to return to Wuhan if that's their hometown. Now, there's a lot of debate about the extent to which we should trust the official statistics in China. But analysts would say, don't worry about the numbers, watch what the government does. And they would, many of them argue, that the senior leadership of the Communist Party wouldn't be re-establishing transport links with Wuhan unless they were reasonably sure that they were bringing this emergency under control. That doesn't mean that everything's over in China, that the crisis is finished. There are social distancing measures, compulsory ones in place right across the country. You can't go into a neighbourhood unless you live there. You can't go into an apartment block unless you live there. Restaurants, cap numbers. You need to wear a mask to enter a building. And in Wuhan, it's sort of neighbourhood by neighbourhood, building by building, that more and more people are allowed out into the street and allowed to leave. I mean, for example, leaving Wuhan, apart from getting a ticket, which imagine how hard that is, city of 11 million people and millions wanting to leave, you need to have a green clearance on a phone app. Now, everybody in China has done this. I've done that because you need to show this green clearance to go into a restaurant here now. But the way you get it in Wuhan at the moment is to, I guess, show that you haven't been in connection, you haven't had any contact with people who've been sick, you haven't been sick yourself, there's no reason for you to have the coronavirus, so you don't have to pass a medical exam, you just don't have to have it, be in one of the danger groups. If you're not in a danger group, you've got your green clearance on your phone, then you can go and try and buy a ticket to leave there. Either way, I think every little stage that China opens up more and more gives people hope here that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's hope that it'll be shared by people in other countries across the world.
Here in the UK, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be responding well to treatment after spending a second night in intensive care in hospital. The government says he is stable and hasn't needed mechanical ventilation. Downing Street said he was not working but could contact those he needed to. Our political correspondent.
Work of government does have to go on, doesn't it? Even though the Prime Minister is, as we know, not working, and Downing Street have confirmed that. Of course, up until Monday, he was very much still working and into things with his government. Now, of course, because he is in intensive care, Downing Street have confirmed that is no longer the case. However, Dominic Raab, who is the Foreign Secretary here in the UK, UK, he is now deputising for the Prime Minister, chairing those meetings. We've had one this morning, for example. They have a daily coronavirus meeting with the Chief Medical Officer here in the UK and the Secretary of State, the most senior minister in charge of health here, among others. And they are looking at things like key issues like how to increase testing, because it's seen as the UK is behind some countries, like Germany. They're trying to get the level of testing here up to 100,000 tests a day by the end of the month. At the moment, they're somewhere in the sort of low tens of thousands. So that is a key focus here. And there's also, they've got to look at things like the restrictions in the UK. The current situation is that you're not allowed to leave your home, apart from for 4 reasons: either to exercise once a day, to go shopping for essentials, to go to work if you can't work from home, and for any medical reasons. Now, when the Prime Minister put those in a few weeks ago, he said that that would be under constant review, and he had said that he would look again at them in 3 weeks' time, which would bring us to next week. So there's lots of questions here about what would happen if he is not back and functioning by then. Now, suggestion is that the government will undertake some kind of review, but they won't necessarily change the restrictions here in the UK.
Let's take you to France now. The country's flagship aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, is returning to its home port early after 40 crew members showed symptoms of COVID-19. There are nearly 2,000 people on board. Germany will accept 50 migrant children and youths from camps on Greek islands. There are worries over the health situation in the overcrowded camps due to the pandemic. The World Health Organization says the outbreak of the virus in Europe is still very concerning and warned governments to give very careful consideration before relaxing any restrictions. President Trump says his administration will shortly have another 110,000 ventilators at its disposal to help people seriously ill with coronavirus. He said the machines would be available to American states and other countries. The daily death toll from COVID-19 in the US has now reached nearly 2,000. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes reports.
The worst week so far, the death toll from COVID-19 continues to rise steeply across the country. The states of New York and New Jersey have both reported their highest daily loss of life, with the number of cases in New York on a par with Italy. Hospitals and health workers continue to struggle with the enormity of the crisis.
There are also a plethora of people who are just incredibly sick in a way that I've never experienced or seen before, and it's awful to be able to offer them so minimum of things. So every day is honestly the hardest day.
The governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, says there is some reason to be optimistic. The rate at which people are being admitted to hospital and intensive care is slowing down. At the daily White House briefing, President Trump said much more medical equipment was now on its way to hospitals, more than 100,000 ventilators over the next few weeks. So many that they wouldn't all be needed, and some could be sent overseas.
The UK called today and they wanted to know would it be possible to get 200, and we're going to work it out. We got to work it out. They've been great partners, United Kingdom, and we're going to work it out for them. So they wanted 200, they needed them desperately.
Mr. Trump also announced that he was considering putting a hold on funding for the World Health Organization. He criticized the United Nations agency for its guidance that borders should be kept open, as the US president banned travel by foreign nationals from China in late January.
We will look at ending funding. Yeah, because you know what, they called it wrong.
The coronavirus outbreak has affected black communities in the US disproportionately. In some places, up to 4 times more African Americans are dying than other races. President Trump said it represented a tremendous challenge for the nation. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has emphasized we are still at the acute phase of the pandemic. Dr. Hans Kluge is the organization's regional director for Europe. And when he was asked about President Trump's remarks on freezing funding for the organization, he said now is not the time to cut back.
We are now still in an acute phase of the pandemic, so this is not the time to cut back on funding. Ultimately, health is the responsibility of the country's national competency, but WHO is there to further step up our support, which definitely in my life I could describe as unprecedented.
Well, I spoke to Greg Gonzalez, an associate professor of epidemiology at Yale University, and said President Trump and his administration have a warning about what could be about to unfold?
Well, first of all, there were warnings of a pandemic, actually due to a coronavirus in sort of a general sense for a couple of years. There were reports circulating in Washington, D.C. among national security types and global health experts. In January, we knew this was going to be a big deal. Peter Navarro, who is one of President Trump's trade experts, had circulated emails and other information around the White House, sort of warning of this internally. There was concern in the public health community. Everybody remembered SARS and had a very clear vision of how this could go global. So we lost 7, 8, 12 weeks in preparation here for.
That's a long time, Greg, and I wonder even now how confusing it is for people across America when they're getting such different and conflicting advice from everyone from the president to their governor, perhaps of their state, telling them different things.
Well, within the White House, we have two centers of power. We have Jared Kushner, who's the son-in-law of the president, who has his own sort of skunk works of experts running the coronavirus response. But yet we also have the vice president and his coronavirus task force, who you see on the nightly briefings, at least here in the United States, supposedly running the coronavirus response too. So within the White House, there's chaos and confusion about who's in charge. And then in the United States, we have 50 states which are in charge of local and state public health actions. And so we don't run on a sort of unitary public health model here. We leave it up to the states. And so there are half a dozen or more states who refuse to put in social distancing orders, stay-at-home orders into place. Recapitulating President Trump's downplaying of the epidemic from several weeks ago, calling it not as bad as the flu, or suggesting that the cure could be worse than the disease. But these states are endangering not only their own residents, but because we're all continuously connected in the United States, except for Alaska and Hawaii, one state failing in its response means that the rest of us also are in danger as well.
To stay with us here on BBC World News still to come, the French economy shrinks at a pace not seen since the Second World War. Forecast isn't good for Germany either. We'll have the latest business reaction coming up.
Delicate, delicious, grana padano, because life can still have a wonderful taste.
I'm William Close. I am the inventor of the Earth Heart. Earth Heart gets its title from the very first time I installed it.
No, mommy.
Après, comment c'est hier? Yeah, I feel it. Brother. Shut up. Oh, yeah, noise. Yeah, come on, wear your shorts. Bless me, oh. Yes, thank you. You like biscuits? Yes, sit down. Manuela, will you allow me hear what? Eh? Do you realize you are making noise?
No. It's not like I go Hey! Bang! 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 Ding dong! Ding dong!
Manuela, stay one place. Yeah, move a big eye, you wherever, okay, Papa.
Doors.
You can't wear socks and the weather is hot. Can't you see? Oh yeah, come and rub your hair. Sit down.
Wow.
Yeah, go inside bed, go and relax with daddy.
From Germany to Greece, Moscow to the Middle East. This was predicted to be the largest and brightest full moon in almost 70 years.
First, viewing the situation from the bigger picture, the epidemic in China begins to better and better. This moon may represent something good.
Yeah, baby, with Papa.
circumstances are what they are and operate, with the intention of starting out. But they didn't. They actually came back to us and said, look, we're working on something for everyone to have an opportunity to show your film. And now this is announced this platform. It's been released. So we're getting a lot of great feedback and something I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for their initiative and their effort to really help the filmmakers that would have been left basically abandoned.
Clearly, the global film industry is being rocked by the pandemic. Damage will almost certainly continue to be done, and experts believe that it will take months, even years, for movie business to recover. Now let's move on to pandemic-themed films. Movies that deal with pandemic, like Future vs. Contagion, have been exceedingly by audiences preoccupied by current events. But there's good news reports that Future is just one of many films that speak to our predicament.
100 years ago, a deadly influenza virus infected hundreds of millions of people.
This is Pandemic, a documentary investigating virus outbreaks and how to prevent the next one. Eerily, it arrived on Netflix around the same time as the public became aware of a virus called COVID-19. Since then, it's been streamed numerous times, presumably for the benefit of households. Within 1 month, the virus had spread around the country, and a month after that, widespread around the world. Actually, experiencing infection, as regulator Steven Soderbergh in 2011 thought on the same page, but has been watched again by millions with fresh eyes. Taking the advice of medical experts, Contagion is a sober examination of a pandemic spreading across the world without all
What we're experiencing today. It's obviously in greater numbers in the film, but in terms of the way it spread, it starts in Hong Kong. There's this fictional virus in the movie, and it spreads via the way that this current virus spreads. The average person is about talk about Western. The Western is not UK. We'll get patients in the West will get
93 Days by Steve Coogan, starring Danny Glover, actually deals with Nigeria, Ukraine. But Hollywood also treats protesters as standard protest controversial and enemies of the community. Watch out for 1995's outbreak caused by a Mexican woman in California carrying a lethal virus coming in through the open country. It's not just the pandemic that fuels fear and fiction. That fear also fuels a horror genre, horror films as well. And pandemic, Future is a film involving
ọ̀gbọ̀lọ̀ náà dé mélòó náà dé tó àtètè béèrè ọ̀rọ̀.
You not talk yesterday. This morning why not tell me something out there?
I no talk wetin. Daddy, CQ.
Where the phone? Where have the phone?
E dey dis thing.
Yes. Hello? Hello. Hello. Thank God I dey sleep for there for my body here. No good. Never too. You do what person dey do now. Yes, ma'am. And I know I can really back. She did it. They did it. They rub something for face. Not be woman. They dey sleep. They dey sleep for years. No, na afternoon. If dey good make you sleep, oh, if you no sleep na problem, eh? Oh, yes, ma'am. How far na? Well, this country different now. Now only Italy people don't see stuff small. Okay, people not dey die. People not dey come out now. Na normal now. For here now, like 200 something don't die. Since yesterday to today, people dey die now. Family no your reach our side. Now your matter. Yes. $50 people. Exotic. Okay, now inside the school, and now we call the something. Okay. Doesn't mean they pay waiting. Doesn't mean they pay that money. Now we boys now youth go dey do all those ones so now. They will come out now. How much they want sell? Who pay 5,000? How much you want company sell? Which my profit you want get? Load wey some will carry now if you no read that money. Sure be like Nigeria said that country no will compete. 5,000. You see now maybe whether they sell pepper 100 naira or 200 naira now because 5,000 now who pay 5,000 now one concept for 500. Okay. because corona problem and nobody go travel now. Mm. 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 How far now? How she dey now? Mm. Oh, yeah, you say you for say her house abi her shop. Only okay, ma. Okay. E good. Okay. Transportation. Okay, she still dey sell for mission. Okay. Okay, once a week. Okay, no be lie. No be lie. You don old o, make you relax o. No know say body don dey weak. Una sef, una matter sef, e too strong sef. Una matter too strong. Which one be any worker? Báwo tí any worker? Uh-huh. I know. Me no, I know. Una no go rest. I know.
International streaming services that could see a move in viewing numbers include School, which focuses on
No be lie.
Indian content and has over 1,000 films and series, as well as Asian Crush, which focuses on Asian
No be
cinema
lie.
and could be a destination for fans of Parasite, this year's Best Picture.
Me know say all your body dey pain you now. Me know say all your body dey pain you now. Wey you take sit down for one place now. I know. You don do. Abeg.
Shudder, a haven for horror fans, and Shout Factory TV, which specializes in cult and B-movies, are all offering free or low-cost trials, hoping to lure viewers who are looking for titles
Where you go?
beyond Netflix and Amazon.
Okay.
They recognize that they have an incredible opportunity here to reach audiences that might not otherwise be kind of compelled to
I say aye.
So they're really just
So far you suffer waka make you no go dey fall sick. You mommy. Oh.
the hope with any free trial is that people either forget to cancel or I guess to stop it.
Ayotaya. The thing sef e dey weak person here truth Ayotaya. The thing na everywhere. Mommy na everywhere o. Because normally as sun don dey come out now say cold not too dey like that na summer time and the person go fit see the hustle get small share. You see me everybody dey so how person wan take get money? Take one care. No, Nigeria matter get as e be. Well done, man. You see okay, you see you sef okay, no problem sha. One verse o the way I take dey talk since mommy gather your mind. It's how many years never reach where your mind go strong. You don see am now. I dey lis ten to you. Okay. You don finish. Na so. Okay. You see That's where you reach. It always say. That's where you reach. Confirm. Mm-hmm. Not be the same thing he tell you. Not be the same thing he tell you. Your time, your you.
I decided to do it because at the time, rearranging books on the bookshelves in the house. And by doing this, I was coming
Okay.
with my art and my videos.
What did this guy tell you put this email that I send them for you?
About the experience of
I want to say that you put track and me send them for you.
They're not there.
Mama, who is that stuff?
Mommy, I come back if you are listening to enough person.
Hello, my people. Hello, guys. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's roll it, guys.
Yes.
Come in, everybody.
Yes.
Hello.